Time now for Options Insight. I'm Abigail Doolittle. Joining me today is Kevin Kelly of Benchmark Investments. Happy Friday to you, Kevin, and great to have you here. And the reason I say that is you have been pretty remarkable in terms of your market calls. Back in December, those dark days when it was feeling very bearish, you were saying buy, buy, buy. You were really pounding the table. And then just a week or two ago, you were talking here and even more so about being, bearish, that you think that we're going to have a swing down. Can you talk to us what led you to those conclusions, and what do you think is next?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting when we got into December, right? And you started to see a lot of oversold conditions, especially in the options market, which shows you people and what they're doing with their actual money, right? So it tells you better than a lot of economic indicators, because this is actually where money's being placed to hedge yourself out. And then when we go back to a couple weeks ago, you could actually see that we actually were getting some signals that we should start to get a little bit bearish, because we had come off the lows, but people weren't hedging themselves appropriately.
So that makes sense. The wallet really speaks. And I also know that another signal that you were watching, and we actually have a great terminal chart of this, is the skew index. You are one of our options experts who's always talking about this skew index, and the divergence to the S&P 500, similar to early last year, is really worrisome to you now.
Yeah, so this is the true fear index, is the skew index.
And that's the one in white.
That's the one in white, correct. So this actually tells you where people are placing their bets, because it's deep out of the money puts where people go out and hedge their portfolio. So it shows you when they're really worried or when they're not worried. And so one of the things that concerned me the most is that we had such a huge run up, almost 20% off of the lows, but skew wasn't coming up. People weren't actually hedging themselves. So if they're not hedging themselves and we start to see a little bit of a down pull, what are they going to do? They're going to sell their positions because they don't have that insurance. So that's what was worrying me the most.
And we're starting to see some of that perhaps, and maybe it will turn into more volatility similar to last year when there was that kind of a divergence, people not putting that insurance on. Well, you've also been great in terms of your sector and your individual stock calls, real estate, REITs, and that's been such a winning play. But today you're talking about broadband infrastructure, Zayo? Yeah,
so Zayo is actually a pretty interesting company because it's up 13% off of canceling an analyst day. And normally when analyst days, yeah, exactly. More importantly, when analyst days are canceled, it's to the negative side. But Zayo is actually a candidate to be taken out. And so you have a lot of activist investors like Starboard, who has 4%, talking about the company needing to sell itself. So they actually delayed their investor day indefinitely, and they're talking about strategic options and alternatives. And so I looked in the options market yesterday, which is right after they postponed it, and you had about 10,273 calls to about 1,400 puts. Wow. And so that's showing you everyone's going in and positioning for a sale to happen. And
they were where the wallet's going.
Yeah, and they were buying only a month out, and they were buying the $30 call. And with the stock here at $27.50, that's showing a lot of conviction, and they were running up the price and the implied volatility. So what you want to do is you want to sell the June 21st, $27.50 put, take those proceeds in, and then buy the same strike call for about $2.65. So it costs you 35 cents to synthetically play this out. And so right here, you get all the upside. You don't even need to worry about the price because it'll be above here.
Kevin Kelly, cautious on the broader markets, but bullish on Zayo. Great to have you from Benchmark Investments for Options Insight.